a warm welcome to today's meeting. The first part, I was going to introduce everybody so that Mr. Comrie was aware about who actually was on, but obviously he's not joined us, so everybody knows everybody. So I think we'll go straight to Hazel Jones, to give us a brief overview the application in front of us today. Thank you very much, Hazel.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Before you do that, there's the minute of the last meeting.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
It talks about approximately £13,000 coming from Falkirk War Memorial. I think the figure quoted was 12, which we actually paid in a couple of days later. I don't know if approximately 13 covers 12.
Yeah.
If it helps, I do think we would have another 1,000 certainly available in the future, if that solves the problem.
Okay, thank you. Brian, sorry.
Just to say, I think the figure was mentioned at that, but I don't think it's because we put approximate in, so we don't hold to that actual figure. It's understood it's whatever you had to give back, and it was just in that kind of ballpark. So finance won't be chasing you for the extra.
Okay, thanks for that.
Thanks,
Councillor Reid. Thank you. Okay, then I think we'll move back to Hazel then. Thank you, Hazel. Are we agreed to minutes? Can we agree to minutes? Yeah, thank you. Right, Hazel.
right, okay then. So the application today is for funding of £5,875, and the application is from the Falkirk Made Friends. The Falkirk Made Friends was set up to stimulate public interest in Falkirk's industrial legacy. There are 6 committee members, and Ian Scott, the local Falkirk historian, provides support to the group. The project aims to produce short films, leaflets and information booklets on the subject aforementioned. There's a table in section 3.6 of the report, which I added this time, which I thought was quite helpful to give a breakdown of the project costs. The total cost of the project is £8,500, and the balance is obviously being funded from payments in kind contributions. The Falkirk Common Good Fund balance is currently £695,880, and this is including rent and interest anticipated for the current financial year. And that's really it. So it's just over to the committee to consider if they want to fund the £5,875 to the group.
Okay, thank you, Hazel. Brian, has Mr. Comrie arrived?
Yes, I'll send a wee message. Dr. Cumrie's joined us, so that means if there's any questions which Hazel doesn't have the detail for, you can maybe direct them to Mr. Comrie.
Okay, fine, thanks. I'm going to open it up. Before I do, I'd just like to say that I don't know how many is read through the application form. There's an awful lot of information there. To me, it's in relation to 3.2 about the project itself, about what the aims are. I think it's very exciting, and I think it would be really beneficial and educational for everybody, especially people in the Falkirk area. So I'm going to open it up to members of the committee. Who would like to go in first? Just have you put your hands up? I think it's the easiest way, as we're doing and all that. Councillor Reid.
Is this to ask questions of Dr. Comrie?
Yep, fine.
Is he there?
Brian, can he hear Councillor Reid?
Dr. Cumrie, can you hear? I'm not thinking he can. He's not on silent. He's not on mute. Just check.
He put a comment in the chat bar saying he was here, but
He's here. I'll
he's not able to interact.
I've just sent one back to see if he can actually hear us, but
Because maybe he could use his phone, Brian, if he can't use the webcast.
what we might have to do is adjourn while I set him up on a phone call, but I'll just send him a message. Watching somebody type's not as gripping as it is in the movies. Right, I'm waiting for him to respond to that. Are there questions which Hazel could answer, or is the committee really just wanting to speak to Councillor Dr. Crumley now?
Well, specifically, Councillor Reid, was your questions directed to Dr. Comrie?
Well, there is a question to Hazel. 4.1 says the rent and interest is anticipated to be around £27,000. But remember, we've already spent that on the Bairnsford War Memorial.
Hazel, you want to answer that?
Yes, sorry, it perhaps was a wee bit unclear there. Yes, but I think at the point in time when I'll need to double check that. I'm really sorry.
No, it's okay. No need to apologise. It's just what you say is correct, but
Well, Councillor Reid, if you get direct questions for Mr. Comrie until he joins, we could maybe get any of the other committee members to ask any questions, and we could bring you back in. Anybody put their hand up? Councillor Patrick?
No, I'll just...
Yeah, thanks, Provost. I'm particularly interested in this, and probably in some ways should have declared interest, but since I never heard of the organisation before, I didn't think that was necessary. Both my father and grandfather were managers of carbon companies, so I've got a particular interest in the history of industry, particularly heavy industry in Falkirk area in the past. It would be, however, useful to hear, in actual, since I say we haven't, it's not been an organisation that's been publicised at all. I'd like to know who exactly are on the committee, who is behind the application and the organisation.
Okay, then we'll leave that till we can try and get a hold of Mr. Comrie to give us an overview. Councillor Meikle-John.
It was just a comment that I think we probably need to clarify is the scope of this project goes well beyond what is the Common Good Fund area of Falkirk, and therefore perhaps maybe some of the other funds should be looking to contribute to this rather than just solely from the Falkirk Common Good. It's a thought. And I know that Mr. Comrie, we're trying to get him to join, but I just wonder if they have sought funding from anywhere else or any other organisations as well.
Yeah. Okay, good point. Anybody, Councillor Reid, want back in? Yep.
Just another question for Hazel, maybe. They quote their contribution as in kind. Now, I've never heard of in kind in any set of accounts. I mean, if in kind in some of the projects was to go in, if you take Falkirk War Memorial, the in kind was probably about £500,000 by the time that it was spent on it. So I don't think in kind should show in these accounts. I've never seen that ever before.
Right, okay. When he did fill the application form in, he did actually phone me a couple of times with queries, and I was querying where the extra funding was coming from if he was only asking for 5.8 and the cost of the project was 8.5. And he explained to me that that was how normal applications were filled in. So he was keen to show it that way.
I've never heard of that.
No, me neither, but he was more or less implying that our application form was a bit iffy, and other ones were done in different ways, so I just let him put it in, basically. But Pat, further to your query as well about the balance, the 695 is the balance today, so that includes the 40 that was going out to Bairnsford and the 12 that came back from you. So that is the balance today, so that's everything up to date, including what we're expecting for interest and rent.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Binney, you wanted in?
Thank you. I really think it's a very interesting project, and obviously to promote our industrial history, that is so important. I actually had an uncle that worked in Cairn, he worked there till his 80s actually, he was a very good engineer, and that's very important. A lot of people throughout the world know about our industrial heritage. One question though that I did have was the value for money and for this going forward. If we did finance this as self-sustainable and things like that, they've actually said that. So have they got a timeline for that? I'm just wondering, you know, have they got a year? Have they got a couple of years? You know, that's not sort of mentioned. You know, I wouldn't like it just to be a project that lasts a couple of months and then sort of filters out or peters out, you know, so it's basically to know how they're going to move forward with this.
I think, to be honest with you, that most of the questions that have came already need to be answered by Mr. Comrie. I think it's important that we get to hear from him and give us an overview and then answer any questions. Brian, are we any closer to being in contact?
I've sent a message to him on this because he's obviously said, "Can you hear us?" And then I've said, "Could you phone me on my mobile?" He hasn't phoned, so I'm just in the process of emailing him just now. Hopefully he's able to pick that up,
Well,
in a short order.
I'll go back to the members, but at this stage, it seems to be that the meeting would absolutely be of no use unless we are making contact with this gentleman to give us answers to the questions that's coming. But Councillor Alexander or Councillor Ritchie, any questions at this stage, maybe to Hazel?
Have you got anything on?
No, I'm fine.
Right.
David?
I'd like to know a wee bit more about the organisation.
Yeah.
Where are they based? You know, is this a one-off project? You know, is it once you've collected the history of a place, then you know, does the project end at that point in time? Just you know, wee details that I think make the difference.
Yeah, I think again, David, through your good selves, that that this meeting actually, unless we can get a hold of Mr. Comrie, I think that we just need to continue the matter until we can have him here, because there's nobody answer the pertinent questions.
Certainly agree with that.
Would you be available if we say adjourn till say 1 o'clock or 1:45 to give me some time to try and get hold of him, or do you want to just set it for a different day?
Brian, I've got a council of a future meeting at 2 o'clock.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've also got a house visit to make at 1:15.
Okay.
And I've got an appointment as well, sorry, later on.
Well, I think if everybody's agreeable, then I think because of the circumstances and unable to get the applicant, it's very important that we speak to him, I think we'll just need to continue this matter and set another date if everybody's agreed to that.
Agreed.
Everybody agreed?
Yes.
Okay then, thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
unfortunate, but the thing is, there's questions that's got to be answered, but there's nobody to answer them. So Brian, we'll leave it up to you to get back to members in relation to another date, and we'll try and have to ensure, maybe even bring him into the buildings or something, and make sure that he's got the IT knowledge there.
Or we can, if I could have got him on the phone, I could have talked him through how to phone into a meeting, but he's not responding to the chats at the side, so he may not know how to use that, to be honest. So I'll get hold of him, I'll speak to him, I'll find a date, and I'll make sure that the connection works so that we can reconvene.
He's maybe trapped in a telephone box.
Well,
possibly.
Thanks. Pat, you must be feeling better. That was a good one. You must be feeling a wee bit better. Okay, everybody, thank you very much, and we'll leave it to Brian to set up another meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.